I won't tease it any longer. She's just at my feet and I can't help but not show her. This is Noah. Can you see? Hello and welcome to the FleeceFolk Diary. My name is Azra and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as the Duchess of Sussex. This is an Australian podcast about mainly Australian fibre. Especially about Australian fleece, the variety in fleece that we have here, and you'll find me most often talking about Corriedale. Well, today we're going to talk about Corriedale and a bit more. This is the story of Noah, and Noah is a story about reviving, resuscitating some partially felted fleece. Noah landed on my lap around early last year, let's say like April, May. And Noah comes from Beylor Blacks, black and coloured sheep. That is Steph and Ryan Betches, based in Victoria. They run a stud farm, I believe, mainly for Corriedale, and they're quite popular. I think a lot of Victorian and a lot of Corriedale farms do use their sheep as studs. But they also put out beautiful fleeces. I mean, they're not new to the game. They win a lot. I think they wiped out the Royal Melbourne Show last year as well. So they're really reputable, and you'll see why if you hop on their Facebook page and see the photos of the fleece that they have. It's just glorious. So I've made a practice. I've actually spoken to you about Noah, I think for the first time was at the tail end of Tour de Fleece. Noah was that grey fleece that I had just scoured at that time, but I could not ignore. I had just finished most of the spins that I had. I spun like 3 lots of yarn, and Noah just kept begging to be sampled, and I did have a small sample of her in my Tour de Fleece 2025 wrapped video. I'll pop that up in here. I also teased a lock of her as part of my 2025 wrapped when I nominated Corriedale as my breed of the year. So this is a lock of Noah. I could not put this to use at all. I hope you can see that. I hope that is clear enough for you. This is just so rock and roll. I love this sort of split color. I love the crimp, and this is washed, mind you. For something to be washed and for it to still hold that crimp without the lanolin sort of acting as the gel, I think is truly remarkable. So I immediately fell in love with Noah. I remember tipping Noah out of the package, out of the bag, and she just stood there nice and proud. I'll overlay a picture of that. Yeah, even raw, she was just exemplary. But I think I was too naive at the time when I first scoured Noah, and I had not scoured it thoroughly. And even though I was able to card her and sample from her, I soon learned that it was still a little sticky. There was still a bit of lanolin that was holding on to the fleece. So towards October of last year, I thought I would try to rescue this fleece that I had by re-scouring. So this is my first sort of exploration into re-scouring a fleece. Following the re-scouring, I really wasn't sure if it was going to work. So this video is really about rescouring, having a pair of the smallest handcarders in the world, and a dream, and how I achieved to rescue that fleece and produce beautiful usable yarn. I've tried to store my spun skeins of Noah in a box, but she's dying to burst out. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Noah. Here she is. I'm going to hand you over to Azra of the past. So from around October last year, when I was initially carding her, there was some footage of me plying the singles during Spinweave Knitmas, and I'll walk you through that process from fleece to yarn, and then I'll meet you at the end for all the stats. Here's the fleece after the initial scouring. This was filmed in October of last year. You can see there's gorgeous crimp in this fleece, and I am still able to take this lock and pick it apart, but there is a bit of lanolin that's left over on my fingers. So this is at this stage that I loaded into bags and rescoured. I just thought I'd show you how the wool or the fleece looks after the rescouring. You can tell how poorly I scoured it the first time, because even after rescouring, it's maintained a lot of its crimp. So things are still like nice and crunchy looking. What do I mean by that? Like crinkle cut fries. But it's just gorgeous, and you can really see the fleece variation. Some bits are really sort of white and silver, and others quite deep dark. So each scouring has been just over 400 grams, and I've recently learned after a lot of experience that my sweet spot for scouring fleece is 500 grams at a time. I'm in front of my TV, and this is typically what I would do when my hands are really tired from knitting or too tired to knit. And I want to still be, you know, productive. I can't get over these locks. They're just gorgeous. And I really like that the tips are bleached. I love a lamp tip, a bleach tip, because it's easier to pick out the lock and I can see it better. But anyway, let me just put this to the side. Wow, you're gonna see all the chaos in the background. That's fine. So take out one pick. Where I went wrong with this fleece scouring, or one of the places I went wrong with the fleece scouring the first time, was that when I was washing it, I just sort of took a chunk of the fleece, popped it into my cold soak. I always cold soak my fleece, and I didn't do a lot of separation and look at second cuts and things like that. So all the second cuts kind of got like at the base, where at the cut end of a lock, it just got all cotted. Can you see that? Like, as in, it just got mixed in with the rest. So this is the cut end. And that didn't help, on top of the fact that I didn't take out enough lanolin. So I'll pull out a lock and I will just separate it out like that and sort of fluff the lock. This is also a great way to hunt for the second cuts. I have a lot of opinions. Well, I think I have a milder opinion of second cuts than most people. Second cuts are just necessary. Like, have you ever tried like filleting a fish or something? Like, you're never gonna get your blade or whatever next to skin that easily. Sometimes you don't have to separate the locks. The free bits come off, and then you can see the sort of matted or cotted end. And that's no fault of the breeder. That's from my previous scouring. Anyway, second cuts, they just are, like, even VM, like, there are ways to get it out with your combing or with your picking. But yeah, I'll just sit in front of the TV, pop a show on. The best time to do this is if you call a friend or call a sibling, because it kind of gets a little, like, you don't notice how much labor you're putting in. And definitely put a drop cloth down, because there is a lot that falls out during this process. So you can kind of see these bits, and you can just pinch, pull, and you'll be left with that nubbin. Definitely put drop cloth down, because a lot of veg matter and dust does fall out. And the best thing to mop up the dust, if you don't want to sort of be carrying it around your house before you reach your garbage bin, the reason that it's in the fleece already is because wool is so good at hanging on to dust. So I take my offcuts and I rub it over my sheet, and that's cleared it. There's a bunch of dust in there, so hot tip for you. You can, when you are carding, as I'll show in the next clip, actually I might not show this, but you can load your carder with locks itself. Actually, oh, I can't move you because I rested you on the carder. Let me see the difference in color. That actually brings me to that point. You can pop your locks straight onto the carder. So I could just go through this fleece, pick out locks, and then load my carder with it, my hand carder. But because there is so much variation in this fleece, I wanted to pick it. And after I pick it, in the bag that I have my picked fiber, I give it a mix to sort of blend it before it meets the carder. And that gives me kind of a semi-consistent yarn. For this spin, I knew I wanted something that was sort of homogeneously gray, mostly, letting some of that natural variation come through just by chance, just by randomness. So I'll just continue this. It's so yummy. Like, this looks like a mess, but look. Oh, that's really cotton. Yum. It just comes off. I'm so happy I bothered to go in with that rescour. I did that with Power Scour because I didn't want to. I thought I had felted it and I didn't want to felt it any further, and I know Power Scour can get rid of lanolin at a slightly lower temp than sort of really hot water, so it was still hot, but I didn't want to mess with it too much, and it's just coming up. It's so satisfying. And if I'm being honest, you could just from this nest spin. I just wanted something a little bit more uniform. I wanted to add one other thing. I know that some people are disciplined enough to scour in one go, dry everything in one go, pick in one go, card in one go. But I find it way more mentally stimulating and interesting if I do a little bit of everything. I think we've already established that actually in this diary. But I already have like a couple finished skeins, and I have the final batch of the fleece to rescour as well. So when the mood fits me, I just fit in a part of the process that I like. And it's kind of motivating because you already know, because you've sort of sampled or whatever, what to expect in the next stages. So you're like, oh, if I get through this, then I can get to the next stage. And I have to say, I really have enjoyed all parts of this process following the rescour. So after this, I'll probably card a bit. And then I've already got, I'll just spoil it for you, shall I? Woo, hello. I've got bobbins that need to be plied. Look, so you can see that kind of, you can sort of see little bands of the white, but once it all plies together, hopefully it will marl nicely. Just hopping on quickly, some people are a little precious about how they hold their hand cards. I sometimes hold it like I would hold, you know, an omelette pan, but I have also seen this grip, which I find that swapping between the two keeps my hands confused, and you know, I love keeping my hands confused so that they can't protest if they don't know. You can see immediately I changed grip there again. Just whatever feels good, whatever feels ergonomically okay. If you have any thoughts, or if you do only do a specific way, do let me know. I know that this can be really divisive, and people can get really worked up about how other people card fleece. catching some really quick footage because there's a lot of construction stuff happening outside. Have just started spinning from my little bag of sausage that I've made out of Noah's fleece, and it's spinning pretty beautifully, but I think as I showed when I'm showing the carding, you can see that it isn't, you know, sort of unflawed. There are some knobbly bits, and I might do a few close-ups just for you to see that even when you have imperfect singles, when it all comes together into a 3-ply, it just evens out. This has become my new setup where I actually put a cloth over what I'm wearing just to protect it. This is a very old tea towel that I've stolen from the Duke. It's seen many lasagnas and curries and things like that, so it's out of our kitchen, and I am collecting these sort of bits that are coming off the singles on here as well. So this is really handy for that instead of it going on my clothes. One thing I actually did want to talk about is how I'm spinning this. I don't know whether you'd call this a semi-woolen or a semi-worsted, because I'm not sort of thinning everything down and dragging and smoothing the singles. I think it would be a semi-woolen because I'm mostly just sort of drafting back and kind of doing a supported long draw. I don't have a great arm span, to be fair, but it really just spins itself. I guess I'm also calling it a semi-woolen because it is more a woolen prep because I did card these. So that's what I'm doing. I am not afraid to tear off sort of gnarly bits that are still there because it isn't combed. There are some second cuts that can still hang around. Okay, here's my trusty PVC pipe nitty noddy. I'm gonna just take the tensioning ring off. I've just made that up. I don't think it's called. Sorry for that noise again. I'm going to grab the end. I'd be really curious to know if people, if you let plies rest before you nitty noddy. I do not, because I want these emptied to be full again. And I often just leave this bobbin on, and when I bought these 3D printed bobbins, I actually bought 3 in one go just to make sense of the shipping, to not have to pay every time I want one. But so this red one has been getting a lot of views. I'm gonna pull out my black one, which is just sort of staring at me off to the side there. I needed noddy straight off this because I can't be bothered loading onto a lazy Kate. I don't know how much filming I got done of me plying, but I just have a very plain lazy Kate. Oh, this keeps getting tangled. I have a very plain lazy Kate. It's not a tension lazy Kate. I don't really have a desire or a need for it. It's really a tensioned lazy Azra because I kind of anchor the singles on this hand and then feed with my other, and it's nice to be plying while standing so I can sort of move my feet and move my body a little bit, and it kind of becomes like a dance where I'm feeding the, hope I haven't messed this one up. Yeah, there we go. Ooh, let's see for balance. Hey, not bad. Barely a twist. Am I good at this? Am I good at something? Oh, she plump. She is very plump. happy with that. There you go. I've decided that this is how I'm going to finish out this video. I just can't. I had just this morning finally finished, because it took quite a while to ply it. Noah was spun as singles and then plied in a 3-ply fingering twist. And I had started in my initial raw weight of fleece. I had 1.31 kilograms of Noah. Noah's tag name is 2227 Red. I believe that means she was born in 2022 and this was shorn in 2024. So this is a fleece from a 2-year-old ewe, purebred Corriedale. I have 1.31 kilograms of this raw, and after doing quite a bit of maths, I have managed to rescue and spin up 915 grams of yarn. So as far as the yield goes from raw to spun wool, I think that's pretty good. That's pretty high actually, for Corriedale. I've got a few more in my stash where I've lost almost half just from combing waste alone. And I think that speaks to how much more yield you can get out of carding. Of course, there is impact of how that will affect, this is so nice, how that impacts the yarn that you get in the end. Like you can see there are definitely some like knobbly bits, and it won't be like the smoothest yarn ever, but it is perfectly usable. I really was worried about how she would blend with all the different tones that were in her fleece, but I'm very happy with this result, I really have to say. And I can't wait to knit a swatch. I haven't yet because I know if the moment I cake this up, I'm going to ignore all my other obligatory knits and get onto this. Anyway, so from Noah, I have 915 grams of finished yarn, and amongst these skeins there is some variation, but I am very comfortably here in this 3-ply fingering twist in DK territory. Some leaning a little DK worsted, but I know this will fare beautifully on, for me, on 3.75 to 4mm needles. So the total yield in terms of meterage is 1,696 meters. That gives me an average per 100 gram yield of 185 meters in a 100 grams. So I think that definitely sits true to that DK worsted measurement. For comparison, I know a lot of people these days are talking about the Rumi raglan that is knit with Cascade 220 ecological wool, and Cascade 220 sorry, not 220, Cascade ecological wool. Cascade 220, for example, sits at about 200 meters to 100 grams, and you can knit that up to like a DK worsted gauge. So this has sort of sitting in that realm. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. I have a few ideas of what I want this to be. I definitely have a lot of meterage. I have plenty if I were to make like a cabled cardigan or a cabled jumper, but I'm really dying to be like absolutely engulfed and enveloped in this yarn. I'm definitely picturing like an Azetta style, but with a pattern I already have, I think. What I might end up doing is, instead of the Rumi raglan, because I think the non-tapered sleeves will drive me insane when I start doing dishes and things like that, I might just take like my Tolsta pattern from Rebecca Clow and add like a huge sort of blooming turtleneck to that, and maybe knit it a size bigger for a bit more positive ease. I just want to be wrapped up in it. Yeah, so maybe something simple. I would love to know what you would make with this yarn in these lovely grey tones. I'll add a few pictures, some process pictures that I took, because I think it is interesting to see the amount of time and effort and the in-between stages when you go from raw fleece to yarn. Yeah, a lot of yardage to play with. There's also, I think, the cinnamon pullover that's from Lina, that my favorite issue with the Dazzler in it. If I find a photo, I'm gonna add that as well as a little insert here. But yeah, that is my time with Noah. I really struggled to spin up the last few rollags of her. At one point I was sort of so done, and I thought I had fooled myself, because I thought I only had a kilo, because I usually only buy a kilo at a time, but this was 1.3, and I'm like, why is this not finishing? But towards the end, I was really treasuring our time together and didn't want it to end. But yeah, that's my time with Noah. I'm really pleased with her. She's rustic but soft. Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I spun her on my Ashford Traveller, which you would have seen anyway from the clips in between. But that's the story of Noah. I hope you give Corriedale a go. Beylor Black and Coloured Sheep, they definitely put out some really lovely fleece that is available for spinners. Yeah, let me know if you have any interesting stories with Corriedale. I feel like every fleece teaches me something different, and this one taught me the beauty of second chances, I think, because I really was considering putting it out, given my first failed scouring, but I'm glad I gave it another go. But yeah, that's me for this week. Thank you for watching. Happy crafting. I'll see you next week.